Welcome to Go For Your Life. Thank you so much for tuning in and giving me your listening ears. Woohoo! This is a podcast for everyone, about everything, and it's to encourage, inspire, uplift you to go for your life. And it is presented and hosted by myself, Caro, and my sweet dog, Sparky. Give it up for him. I hope you're ready. Enjoy. Dear people, welcome back to Go For Your Life. So I am back with Radha because for me and for her as well, it just wasn't enough. We didn't get enough of you. We can't get enough of you, you know? We need more of you, Radha. So thanks so much for being back.
Oh, thank you so much. I felt exactly the same after we talked. It was so beautiful to start the conversation. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, there's so many other things that we could share and that we can talk about and really offer something to people to give them some practical tools and takeaways.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited that we get this opportunity. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. No, it's so nice to have you back. And I felt also because you are so diverse and you do so many different things. I felt like, we just didn't speak enough about Ayurveda, I think, and specifically what you're saying about giving people some practical tips. So I wanted to start today actually by reading a little bit from this book called Practical Ayurveda from the Sivananda Yoga Vedanta Center. I will put it in the show notes as well for everyone because it's my Bible. I grab it all the time. And I think it's a great book with beautiful pictures and really good explanations. And I love what the foreword says. And I thought we could, dive into it straight away after. So it says, yoga and Ayurveda are sister sciences. Together, they show a way to live naturally and achieve radiant physical, mental, and spiritual health. As one of the most important spiritual and healing traditions of the world, Ayurvedic and yogic scriptures describe the ethics and daily, monthly, and yearly practices of a healthy life. This covers topics including diet and exercise, as well as the use of the breath, senses, emotions, and mind. Their approach to meditation, provides a step-by-step guide to complete peace and harmony. A balance of the mind and the heart, opening up the deeper potential of human awareness. Wow.
That's a good USP right there, isn't it? Understanding about if you're not already on the bandwagon, that's going to get you on.
What a concept. What a concept. Yeah, my teacher Sharon Gannon would say, wow, what a concept. Because I think it is. And because you said, I was so impressed also what you mentioned about you getting into yoga so young and even being so young, like 16 as you teach your training. I thought we could dive in a little bit of this because for me, it feels the same that they are sisters. Like, how do you see that, Radha, for you and your practices?
So for me, yoga came first. As you know, I was 15 when I did my teacher training. So it was a 2-year teacher training. I think I just started it when I finished what we have here is like GCSEs. So before you go into like college or sixth form. And it was very important because it helped me just have, like I always like to explain Ayurveda and yoga, it just gives you a different lens. And for me, yoga was like one of the first lenses that really made me feel very empowered. And Ayurveda is they're so entwined with one another, and you can separate them in one way. And some people really take more of an affinity towards the physical parts of yoga and understanding the chakras and the koshas. But for me, Ayurveda was the perfect next step in my yoga journey, because what I've always really loved is having everything very personalized to the individual. Because we all have an ideal that we're taught to maybe aim to aspire to become of this type of person, and sometimes it can really cause us to feel like we're failing because we're not achieving this one specific idealistic goal. And that's different depending on how you've been brought up, what those ideals are. But what I found really beautiful is Ayurveda brought to me the opportunity to use all of the tools, whether it's food or exercise, meditation, that I'd started to learn about in my teacher training, and actually really make it specific to either the person in front of me or even to myself. So yoga offers an absolute a wealth of knowledge, and for some people that is more than enough. That can take up several lifetimes just studying that. But I loved personally how Ayurveda gave me that extra level of tweaking so that I could really make it sparkle and actually create something that empowered the person to know my journey is not going to be the same as the other person's. And it shouldn't be, because Ayurveda, the whole principle is you come from your current state of being, which is your prakriti, which is basically the result of all the stuff that's happened to you in your life, where you were born, where your parents were, what happened to you as you were growing up. And you bring it all back to your personal prakriti, your unique state of being that you were born to be. And that, that is beautiful. And I think it allows people to have permission to be different and not all strive for one person's view of
you strive to be fitting in as we are taught in this society. We're told just fit in, just shut up, don't be like everybody else. But it's actually it allows you to stand out, right? Like
it tells you to be yourself, because it's saying, there's that lovely quote that says, be yourself, everyone else is already taken.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the truth, and that's what I really love. So when it came to yoga, I really love physical movement, and I've done my sort of fitness instructor training, and I've always loved sort of learning about all these different physical movements. So I liked yoga because it was quite a nice introduction. So to start to allow people who maybe went into spirituality or meditation, yoga was quite accessible. So I really like that. And I still find now with Ayurveda, sometimes there'll be a client and they really just want lots of physical things, and then I use a lot more of the yoga sort of toolkit. But there are sister sciences, and there's a beautiful mythology. If someone's interested in their history, they have such incredible ancient history that is withstanding the test of time, and I think more relevant every decade that continues. As we remember, like, God, we need this. So I think it's a complex but also very simple art form.
And I think that it what you said as well, like it just blends so well together, and you already were on a yoga journey. I mean, it's for me the same. Like after years of teaching, I was like, Ayurveda, it makes all the sense to bring that in now, and the times we're living in as well. Just think of your health and your well-being. I think that's a really I think it's a really good thing. And if you had to give us all like a speed course in like, okay, what is this Ayurveda, or like what could you explain to everybody listening who really who people who don't know at all what we're talking about? Are you what?
I remember writing an article for my website way back, which was titled "Ayur what?"
Because
they're like, what is it? I mean, I think I still pronounced it very differently to some other people, but it's open to interpretation. So I think on our last conversation, we briefly went over the different constitutions. But I think even stepping further back, because I think all of the language, they've got all of these funky ancient words, Indian words that are in there that can sometimes be quite intimidating if you're not familiar with the language. So I think really boiling Ayurveda down to its core, and this is my own personal view, my experience of it, it is all about reclaiming your strength and your power, and like the biggest thing, which is understanding your dharma and what you're meant to do, and giving yourself the energy to be able to do that. Because we have a very physical understanding of what health is these days, and we talk about supplements, going to the gym, or even exercising yoga wise, anything like that. And I think we can lose sometimes the potential that it's not just about staying really healthy and having great energy and being able to get up each day and be really excited to be alive. It's about reclaiming that understanding of who am I, and that's that feels like a totally different category to health. And that's why I like Ayurveda, because it's not just about understanding what is going to optimize my health, but you have to get to know yourself to do that. And that's like, it's the perfect pathway, because I think most people I know, most people I've met, they're all searching for, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why am I waking up every day? What is the point? And that's what it boils down to. There's so many people that lack purpose, And it's not for, lack of looking for it. We all really want that, but life gets in the way, things get busy. And when people start to engage on an Ayurveda journey, like me and you did at the beginning, it's beautiful because it gives you an opportunity to get back to understanding your story, understanding your gifts, understanding the beautiful human flaws that we have here to work with in our lifetime. And that's all signposting us towards, who am I? Why am I here? How can I do this best? Yeah.
That human awareness that we said right in the beginning, and this book is saying, like, I think that that's a beautiful, or the deeper potential, what we're talking about. Because do you feel like, especially also from your experiences as an Ayurvedic coach, do you think like too many people are too caught up? And I feel with me, it has had that as well, too caught up in the food part, like, and can only think about like, oh, but Ayurveda is just the food.
Yes, I sometimes I think it could probably put some people off that aren't that bothered about food. Like for you, it's great because you're a chef and you love food and you understand food. And actually that can be a beautiful way of getting you on track and helping you understand it. But yeah, I think it can be useful in some ways, because from a Western perspective, it can be quite difficult to go into the deeper, Sankhya philosophy of Ayurveda, and all of the sort of more subtle stuff can be a bit too intense at the beginning. And food is something that we do on a daily basis, very regularly. It's very relatable for people. So yes and no. I think it's about understanding that that's one of the aspects, one of the pathways within Ayurveda.
But actually, it's not the only one.
It's not the only one, but if that's what gets you on board, and that's what gets you having conversations about what does my body need, what do I really need to implement in my life a bit differently, what do I need to stop doing, that's great. And actually, for some people, prayer and meditation and things don't work so well for them. So, if food is something that you can make as your ritual, where you make that your self-care or your mindfulness ritual each day, that's great, because you're going to have to do it every single day, probably 3 times a day. And actually, if we can change that relationship for people, then amazing. Even if that's all we do, that can transform someone's life.
No, absolutely. I think that too. And 2 questions in one. Like, this is something that I would sometimes wonder, and I get this question sometimes from friends when we talk about Ayurveda. It's like, so is Ayurveda a lifelong path? Like, and what are we actually working towards? How you were mentioning also, like, the stage you're in when you're born. Do we want to go back to that, or because so much has happened to us during our lifetime? And when we work with the doshas, I sometimes wonder, like, because I think it is a lifelong path, and I don't even know if we get to where we want to be before we die, hopefully, in this life. But how do you see that? Because I find it a really interesting sort of path and an exploration.
I think it's a really, really lovely question to ask, actually, because again, it's about the mindset of, we have a diet concept or an exercise program concept, which is usually quite finite with a specific amount of weeks, days, months. And Ayurveda is a lifestyle. That is definitely for sure. It's a pathway that you can choose to take. And it's not a path that you get onto once you have an amazing consultation and then you know what to do forever. It's one of those that requires regular input and adaptation. And at the beginning in that quote when you shared, it talks about the different cycles. And there is even now in like sort of Western literature, there's books and things coming out now talking about how you need to adapt your lifestyle seasonally. And in Ayurveda, we go even deeper. The cycles within everything, and within but sort of biochemistry and cell biology, we know that those cycles exist. And so these changes that we have to make, whatever time you get onto the path, it's going to need an update on a fairly regular basis. And that's the thing, like in your youth, they say you're very kapha dominated because it's all about growth and development, and kapha is that very nurturing sort of nourishing aspect, and we need that when we're children. And then in the middle stage of our life, we have the drive, we have the ambition, which is the pitta, and you need that to drive through your life. You've got a lot to do as an adult, got a
Mm-hmm.
lot of responsibilities, so you need that fire there. And then you go into the batter stage at the end where it's a lot more light. And I know from my perspective, it's, you know, you're getting lighter because you're getting ready to drift off onto the next
Mm-hmm.
phase.
Yeah.